Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of r/IDontWorkHereLady and our story for today. I got fired from a hospital that I don't work for. So I just found out about this sub from someone who suggested I post my recent firing from the hospital I was admitted to. I had a rather crappy Memorial Day weekend. Long and rather boring short story, I had a seizure and face-planted my bedroom door. After a fun ride to the hospital on backboard and neck brace, a whole bunch of tests followed, and I was admitted because, as it turns out, my autoimmune condition is quite being managed as well as I thought it was. Fun times. After the first couple of days sleeping off the concussion and crappy medication side effects, I made it to the third day and felt well enough to walk around and maybe even make a trip down to the cafeteria to get something better than the standard hospital food. Now, I didn't really have much in the way of clothing. My wife brought my favorite hoodie and clean underthings, but forgot pants of all things. So a really nice nurse scrounged up a pair of the hospital's blue scrub pants for me. So I was happily free of the IV cart for the next few hours and decided to get some chocolate milk and maybe a tasty snack to treat myself and lift my spirits a bit. But it ended up being a rather sad, frustrating affair before I could even make it onto the elevator. I'm pretty slow walking, but I'm just content to not be confined to bed or tangled up in tubes, so I enjoy the sunlight and make friendly conversation with the day shift nurses as I pass by. Sometimes it's the small things that make me happy. But all that happiness goes away as I make it to the waiting area and elevator lobby, when a 60-year-old woman with the sourest expression on her face steps off the elevator, like sucked on a whole barrel of lemons type of sour, lips puckered up tighter than a cat's butthole sour. So I try to give her a wide berth, but Puckerface isn't having it. She marches straight up to me and gets well into my personal space and starts demanding that I take her to her son's room and give her an immediate rundown of his medical ailments. The exchange is as follows between me and Puckerface. PK. PK, finally, one of you lazy bleeps is going to take me to my son's hospital room and explain to me my baby boy's condition. I'm his mother after all, and that wife of his just hasn't been taking care of him like she should be. Me, thinking the children's hospital's next door. What? PK. Oh, don't play stupid. You're not pretty enough for that. I know my son's here, and I want to see him right this instant. His name is... poor bleep. And I think he was brought in on Friday. Me, really confused and feeling bad for poor bleep. I don't work here. PK. What do you mean you don't work here? You have on scrubs in a hospital. You're a nurse. Now take me to my son, B-word. Me, starting to get irritated and sassy. Dude, I'm not a nurse. Not everyone who wears scrubs is a nurse. I just didn't feel like going to the cafeteria in a gown with my butt flapping in the wind. PK, waves hands as if that's just magically going to make me not being a nurse change in any way. You're just using that as an excuse not to get in trouble for sucking at your job and being a little jerk. Me, holds up wrist, including the lovely bright allergy band. Yeah, no, I'm not a nurse. I'm a patient, and I really don't have to be explaining this to you. Go find someone else who can help you, but you probably should not be such a B-word about it. PK, inching so close, I put up my hands to push her back out of the 4 remaining inches of personal space. I will act however I want. You better believe I'm going to get your lying butt fired. I want to speak to your supervisor. Such unprofessional behavior and talking back to a patient's family. Your bedside manner is atrocious. Me, pointing to the growing crowd. The head nurse is that way, and for the last time, I don't effing work here. I'm a damn patient, just like poor B, and you're being a jerk to people, especially nurses, is a good way to get thrown out on your butt by security, so you might want to tone it down. By this time, a couple of nurses come over. All of them have clear name badges and credentials on display, as well as these little communication devices that are like Star Trek communicators, but look and perform a lot less cool. The head nurse, who was so sweet, just like all the ones I'd had during my stay, had taken on the scary resting bee face that would make me think twice, didn't even scare crazy Puckerface. She barges right up to the nurse and demands to be taken to her son, spouting off his name and date of birth to basically everyone on the floor, and then demands that I be fired. PK, oh, and fire that B-word. She's completely incompetent and rude. Head nurse, deadpans with a chill game I'm rather envious of. She doesn't work here, and I'm going to have to ask you to refrain from yelling and harassing people. This is a hospital, and people are trying to heal and rest. PK, I understand, but this woman isn't letting me see my son, and he needs his mommy right now. She needs to be dealt with for being such a terrible, irresponsible nurse. Me, but I'm not a nurse. Head nurse. Again, Calypso is not employed by a large Texas hospital in major metropolitan area. After going back and forth for several minutes, Puckerface can't seem to wrap her brain around the fact that I don't actually work at the hospital. She's basically a broken record calling for me to get fired like she's forgotten why she's here in the first place. Head nurse is calm and has explained it as many different ways as she possibly can and is starting to rub her temples with what must be a nasty headache. Finally, after a couple of seconds, she turns to me. Head nurse. Hey, Calypso. You're fired, okay? Me. Okay. Head nurse, holding an elevator for me. Go on now, get on your way. I get on the elevator and head downstairs, incredibly grateful to be away from that monstrous woman and go on to collect my well-deserved prize and text my wife about the whole thing. She'll find it hilarious. But the story doesn't end there, as it turns out when they look up information for her son, who turns out to be 2 rooms down from mine, he specifically said his mother is on the list of people who absolutely under no circumstances could be allowed to visit. So I watched her get dragged, kicking and screaming and biting through the hospital's main lobby when I was returning from the cafeteria. The chocolate milk and cookies were twice as tasty after that. Poor B turned up that evening to apologize for his mother since news of the crazy lady spread across the floor like wildfire. He and his family were really cool. Looks like we're going to be physical therapy buddies now and we can swap bat crap crazy mom stories together. Also, shout out to all the nurses out there. You guys are the real MVPs for all the care you do in putting up with people's crazy antics. Thanks. And our second story. Fine, but you're stealing their jobs. I love Target. I'm also a stress eater who happens to be waiting on results of a biopsy. See where this is going? So I'm wandering down the candy aisle wearing a green floral dress and a yellow cardigan. You know, nothing at all even vaguely resembling a Target employee uniform. I've already grabbed a package of Marshmallow Moon Oreos and a box of Fruit Loops, and I'm seeking to round things out with some Twizzlers. Old Butt Karen is blocking the area with her cart as she yells into an ancient artifact of a flip phone about what Billy likes and how, no, it can't be the hairy Bow Bears. She remembered the gold package. I see the Twizzlers, but alas, they're physically out of my reach behind the barricade of good old Karen's cart. Excuse me, I say politely, pointing at my quarry. Could you please move your cart? Karen's grandma waves me off as if I were a gnat. Okay, I'm annoyed. I just want to grab my rare junk pile treat and go home to watch Gilmore Girls and forget about the potential nightmare growing in my guts. I'm not exactly a large woman, so I think I can fit in between the red plastic trademark cart and just grab my candy. Wrong. Is it the neon worms then? Proto-Karen brays as she actually effing hip checks me, sort of side-scooting her cart closer to the candy rack and knocking loose several items in the process. Excuse me, she dramatizes into her phone. Some B-word employee with nothing better to do feels like harassing me. She wraps her cloven fist around the lower half of her phone and leans towards me dramatically. Move along now, she scolds with sarcastic sweetness. I'm a customer. Customer! Go sweep up the back or something. Then she sees my expression. I have RBF at the best of times. Seriously, you should see me in some of those pictures they snap on roller coasters. So when it's time for the actual bee to come out, your girl's ready. Move, I say quietly, but with a definite air of menace. Karen snaps shut her phone, trying to match my fury, but succeeding only in looking like one of those shriveled old Apple dolls people force their children to make. I'll have your job for this, just you wait. I don't work here. I go to push her damn cart out of the way, but she yanks it first, causing a bunch of stuff she'd knocked loose to tumble to the ground. I don't know why you need to stock things now. You could have waited until the paying customers were done here. Now look at the mess you have to deal with. She chuckles at this, as if I'm a child who's just gotten a taste of the cocoa powder I'd been begging for. Are you crazy or just stupid, I ask her, setting down my cookies and cereal to pick up a handful of Ferrero Rocher and Godiva boxes. It's not like she was going to clean up after herself. I'll have you know the manager of this store and I are good friends. He'll fire you. The manager is a lovely woman I've spoken to often. She wouldn't fire anyone on a Karen say-so. What part of I don't work here are you failing to understand? Finally, Karen the elder seems to realize that I'm not wearing red or a name tag or anything else that would indicate I work for Target. Not that I turned down the employee discount. If you're not an employee, why are you cleaning up like one? Because I try to be a decent person. Karen doesn't know how to react to that. I like to think it's because the idea of being a decent human being is an entirely foreign concept to her. She stands there for a moment, watching me face a shelf she herself demolished, clutching her phone like an amulet. After a brief pause, she snaps to and snatches away her cart, vacating the candy aisle, but not before zinging me with this whopper. Get it? Candy humor? Fine, but you're stealing their jobs. I hope you guys enjoyed the story, and I'll see you in the next video.